Chapter 2437, Return to Earth 1. The Dreamer hovered low in lunar orbit, white light streams flowing gently along its hull, illuminating the dim expanse of space. Inside the cabin, the atmosphere hung with a subtle tension. They could fight side by side to the death, but when it came to dividing the spoils, no one would budge an inch. Zhang Yi and his crew had just returned from the brilliant Moon Empire. Resources piled up in a corner of his dimensional space, vast supplies stacked into a mountain. They emitted faint energy pulses, dazzling and mesmerizing. Saladin, Arthur, and the others stared with burning eyes. Now that the mission was complete, everyone was ready to divide the spoils. Morgan puffed on his cigar, eyes half closed, a signature smirk playing at the corners of his mouth. "Brother Chaos, looks like you hit the jackpot on this trip." "Just say what you mean," Zhang Yi replied, leaning against the cabin wall with a faint smile. Morgan spread his hands, his grin widening. "Nothing much. Just a friendly reminder, we're allies, right? You led the charge, we bled and contributed. Doesn't that mean we deserve a share of these resources?" "Of course. You'll take the lion's share, no one's complaining. But with the Moon Empire's vast wealth, even if you only gave us 20 or 30%, it'd be more than enough to feed us all." No sooner had he finished speaking than Saladin approached, his black armor reflecting the cabin lights, a smile on his face. "I agree with Morgan's proposal. After all, we lost many brothers in that battle in the Dark Sun Forest." King Arthur nodded in agreement, his expression steady as a mountain. "Chaos, Morgan and Saladin are right. The distribution of these resources must be fair." The air in the cabin grew tense. Morgan's smile remained unchanged, but a shrewd gleam flickered in his eyes. Saladin and King Arthur clearly weren't here to pressure him. Yet after fighting this hard, risking their lives, and losing so many comrades, they certainly wouldn't relinquish their rightful share. Zhang Yi narrowed his eyes slightly, remained silent for a moment, then suddenly spoke. "Of course I haven't forgotten the benefits our allies deserve. However, we cannot touch these resources now." "Can't touch them?" Morgan raised an eyebrow. "Are you planning to keep it all for yourself?" Zhang Yi smiled faintly. "We'll divide it in 2 days." "Why?" Saladin frowned. "Because not everyone has arrived yet." Zhang Yi turned away, his silhouette stretched long by the cabin lights. "On this journey, besides us, there are others who should be appearing." "Who?" King Arthur asked. "Fmans and the Brahmas haven't shown up yet. We can't be certain they perished in the Dark Sun Forest. So we wait 2 more days. If they haven't returned by then, it means they're dead. Their rightful shares will be delivered to their nations upon our return." The others in the cabin froze simultaneously, the air seeming to hang heavy for several seconds. "You mean Morana and Emperor Indra?" Morgan exhaled smoke slowly, a complex expression flickering across his face. "Those two aren't pushovers either. Especially that woman, Morana, she's ruthless. Last time I saw her at the Bailing Strait, she froze 3 entire fleets single-handedly. If she shows up, this place might turn into an ice field." Zhang Yi's gaze remained as calm as ever. "Who knows? Most of the threats from the Dark Sun Forest have been cleared by us. If they're still alive, we'll just wait for them to return. I'll use signal flares to guide them here. It's only 2 more days, no need to rush. Let's wait a little longer." With Zhang Yi speaking thus, Morgan and the others found it hard to object. After all, they had come together. Even if someone contributed nothing before dying in battle, you still had to share resources with them. That was a fundamental principle. "All right then, we'll wait 2 more days." Morgan nodded, and naturally, the others had no objections. But just then, a voice came from the corner of the room. "Chaos, I need to talk to you about something." Zhang Yi turned toward the voice and saw Gao Chong Kong speaking. His gaze held a hint of complexity. Zhang Yi raised an eyebrow, replying indifferently, "Speak." He was well aware of Gao Chong Kong's assault on Emperor Indra. Gao Chong Kong had gambled everything, but despite meticulous planning, he ultimately fell to the other's destiny. Now, he had lost his optimal moment, defeating Emperor Indra would be difficult even without relying on a surprise attack. Therefore, it was best not to confront him. Gao Chong Kong glanced around and murmured, "I wish to return to Earthstar first." The others froze. "What?" Saladin raised an eyebrow. "You've barely returned, and already you're eager to leave on your own?" Gao Chong Kong gave a wry smile and shook his head. "I have some special reasons. In short, Chaos, give me my share first. Then allocate me a starship. That shouldn't be too difficult for you, right? As for the amount, you decide." He appeared remarkably gracious, but that was only because he knew that with Zhang Yi's current power, resource distribution was entirely at his discretion. Even if Zhang Yi hoarded all the resources for himself, giving nothing to others, everyone would only harbor silent resentment. Who would dare to cross him? Zhang Yi gave him a fleeting, indifferent look before nodding. "Very well. Since you wish to leave, I won't force you to stay." A small spacecraft was indeed no problem for Zhang Yi. The Dreamer carried over a dozen escape pods, sufficient to return a dozen people to Earth. However, he would deduct the cost of the escape pod from Gao Chong Kong's share of resources. "I'll arrange a spacecraft for you. It's fully fueled, with a modified navigation system capable of bypassing the main spatial corridor and returning directly to Earth's orbit. Your supplies will be loaded onto the ship immediately." Soon, a small spacecraft slowly lifted off the lunar surface, heading toward Earth. High in the sky, Gao Chong Kong stood at the porthole, his gaze complex as he watched the ground below. Guman and Batu stood next to him, one on each side, looking through the porthole at their figures on the moon. Guman's expression remained composed, though a hint of worry flickered in her eyes. Batu, slung with a heavy energy rifle, waved toward Zhang Yi and grinned. "Chaos, we're off. See you on Earth." The spacecraft roared through space, fading into a distant speck of light before vanishing into the starry expanse. Zhang Yi guided the Dreamer to the edge of the dark sun forest. Beyond the dark sun forest, the wind whistled low, gray mist swirling and churning between the rocks like the breath of a slumbering beast. Zhang Yi and the others stood on the ship's exterior deck as silver signal bullets were released one by one. Blazing columns of light tore through the sky, shooting straight up toward the heavens. Soon, high above the dark sun forest, a signal formed, calling out to the survivors. Chapter 2438, Return to Earth 2. The red flare streaked across the sky, its fiery light piercing the gray haze and illuminating the desolate dark sun forest beyond. Zhang Yi lay still on the sofa seat, eyes slightly narrowed, his gaze fixed on the distant dark sun forest shrouded in black mist. The signal had been sent. Now, it was time to wait for a response. But he couldn't be certain whether Emperor Indra, Morana, and the others were still alive. After all, even the Asgard and Nordic had suffered near total annihilation. Now only the death goddess Hela remained, yet her status and standing rendered her utterly unqualified to engage in dialogue with titans like Zhang Yi or King Arthur. At this moment, even her return to Earth depended entirely on Zhang Yi and his allies. After sending the signal, Zhang Yi relaxed aboard the Dreamer, leisurely snacking and resting his eyes. With the great battle concluded, his mind felt considerably lighter. He began to slowly savor the meditation technique imparted by the Black Moon Priest. Upon careful study, he discovered it shared remarkable similarities with Wang Yanming's Heart Sutra. It seemed that the study of spiritual power ultimately converged, despite divergent paths. Less than half a day passed after the signal was sent. A faint ripple stirred in the wind, and the air seemed to freeze in that instant. Zhang Yi turned, a subtle expression crossing his face. Distantly, the sky began to ripple faintly, as if something was approaching. Soon, a figure materialized at the edge of Zhang Yi's vision. Alone, the figure emerged silently from the edge of the dark sun forest, step by step. Clothed in tattered Brahmin robes, hands pressed together in prayer, a serene smile graced his face. The hem of his robe fluttered gently with each step, radiating an aura of mystical brilliance. It was Emperor Indra. This guy. He really isn't so easy to kill after all. Zhang Yi murmured, narrowing his eyes. Emperor Indra walked slowly, his steps deliberate and steady, each stride seeming to contemplate the mysteries of the cosmos. Zhang Yi watched him intently, a flicker of doubt crossing his mind. Emperor Indra's appearance remained unchanged from Zhang Yi's memories, forever with palms pressed together, a gentle smile on his face, like a celestial being descended to earth, transcendent and ethereal as the wind. The Zhang Yi of the past had despised this demeanor, convinced the man had made pretentiousness second nature. But seeing him now, it felt somehow natural. He seems different. What happened to him in the Dark Sun Forest? Zhang Yi felt a surge of curiosity. At this moment, Emperor Indra carried an indescribable aura, as if he had undergone some profound transformation, as if he had experienced an irreversible shift in his destiny. The others also noticed Emperor Indra's arrival. They gathered on the deck and lowered the ramp. Emperor Indra raised his head, offering a slight, smiling nod to the group before boarding the Dreamer. Emperor Indra approached the others slowly. Bowing his head slightly, he pressed his palms together in a gesture of respect toward Zhang Yi, his tone as gentle as ever. Chaos, King Arthur, His Majesty Saladin, and Mr. Morgan, it has been a long time. His voice was clear and resonant, yet to Zhang Yi, it carried an added depth, as if imbued with some intangible power. King Arthur smiled courteously. Glad to have you back. Noticing no one else beside Emperor Indra, he understood immediately, all the Brahma mutants who had accompanied him were dead. Of course, Gao Chong Kong and his two companions had been confirmed as defectors, so they couldn't be counted among his men. At this thought, Morgan and the others all wore expressions of profound meaning. The losses suffered by Brahman in this campaign would likely trigger a major upheaval. This was good news for them. Zhang Yi looked at Emperor Indra, a faint smile playing at the corners of his mouth. You're back. Seems everything went smoothly? Emperor Indra's gaze resembled an eternal abyss, serene yet tinged with an enigmatic glow. His smile remained unchanged, yet it conveyed an unspoken depth. I pursued destiny. Zhang Yi raised an eyebrow. Pursued destiny? Do all you charlatans speak like this? Is it so hard to speak plainly? He took a step closer, his tone tinged with inquiry. What exactly did you experience in the Dark Sun Forest? Emperor Indra didn't answer directly, only letting out a soft sigh. Those profound eyes seemed to pierce through endless time and space, gazing into the distance as if pondering some exceedingly complex question. He slowly raised his head, his hands still pressed together in prayer. His tone remained calm, yet carried an unusual undertone. Destiny is a river. Some swim against the current, while others drift with the flow. Whichever path one chooses, there is no turning back. Are you saying you've accepted fate's arrangement? Zhang Yi's lips twitched. He couldn't shake the feeling this man was either pretending to be profound or well on his way to pretending. Well, what can you expect from a charlatan? How else would he deceive others? Fate's arrangement isn't forced, it's a choice. Emperor Indra spoke slowly. I chose to drift with the current, chasing that intangible pull. Whatever the outcome, I've already embarked on this path. Zhang Yi fell silent, a complex wave of emotion suddenly surging within him. He could sense a transformation in Emperor Indra, an unfathomable shift, as if he had detached from some level of divinity and stepped into a deeper, more profound realm. Perhaps this guy really had some extraordinary encounter, leading to sudden enlightenment. What do you think you're chasing? Zhang Yi finally asked, his gaze still serene, seeking more clues in Emperor Indra's words. Emperor Indra looked at him, smiled faintly, and spoke slowly. What I pursue is destiny itself, that ultimate truth unknown to mortals. Every being will ultimately face destiny's judgment. Whether we can master this destiny is what truly matters. This wasn't ordinary contemplation, it was the words of an existence transcending human comprehension. Was destiny truly held in the hands of some unseen force, as Emperor Indra claimed? Though Zhang Yi didn't quite grasp it, it sounded profoundly significant. But since he and Emperor Indra weren't particularly close, he didn't bother to ask further. Anyway, glad you're back. Have something to eat, drink some hot tea, and rest a bit. We'll wait a while longer to see if anyone else returns. We'll depart for Earth in 2 days. A faint trace of bewilderment finally flickered across Emperor Indra's face. Return to Earth? Has the moon's problem been resolved? Zhang Yi shot him a dismissive glance. What else did you expect? Did you think we came here for a vacation? Indra's eyes widened slightly, the air of supreme coolness he'd been projecting finally slipping away. Chapter 2439, Return to Earth 3. Emperor Indra thought he'd glimpsed the path of destiny, landing an incredibly lucky break here. He'd planned to return and show off his divine might, helping Zhang Yi and the others save Earth. But now you're telling him it's all over? He hadn't even started showing off yet. A crack appeared in the perpetually serene smile that graced Emperor Indra's face. Suppressing the urge to vent his frustration, he gave a stiff nod. It's settled then. But then, something occurred to him, and his gaze sharpened. Have you seen Gao Chong Kong? He fixed his gaze on Zhang Yi, a peculiar glint flashing in his eyes. Gao Chong Kong had stated during his attack that Zhang Yi was the mastermind behind everything. And as the foremost power in Brahma's neighboring realm, Zhang Yi certainly had the means to orchestrate such events. Zhang Yi's expression betrayed no hint of unease. He feared encountering you, so he slipped away first. At this point, a mocking curve appeared at the corner of Zhang Yi's mouth. You guarded day and night, yet in the end, you still failed to prevent it. But I'm curious, how did both of you manage to survive? I thought at least one side would be wiped out. Emperor Indra snorted lightly. I am the chosen one favored by fate. How could misfortune befall me so easily? However, his gaze turned icy. That bastard, I will slaughter him with my own hands. He refrained from arguing with Zhang Yi. Gao Chong Kong's words had planted a thorn in his heart. While he couldn't confirm if Zhang Yi was behind it, suspicions lingered. Circumstances dictated his actions. He wasn't foolish enough to sever ties with Zhang Yi. Deep within the dark sun forest, many began their return journey after receiving Zhang Yi's signal. After all, Zhang Yi was widely acknowledged as the most powerful figure in this operation, save for a handful of overconfident fools who disagreed. Thus, upon receiving his signal, they felt it was only right to show him respect. Guided by the signal arrow, the Pantheon forces from Fmans began their march out of the dark sun forest. Leading the Fmans contingent was, naturally, Morana, the winter goddess. She wore ice-blue battle armor, her stride steady and her expression stern. Following Morana were several of Fmans' generals, Thunder God Purin, Vulcan, Dasbog, the fire god, and Jussenberg, the moon god. They all looked utterly exhausted, their bodies covered in wounds, their breaths heavy. Yet their eyes still blazed with fierce fighting spirit. Dasbog's fiery crimson eyes scanned the surroundings, while Jussenberg looked at Morana with confusion. We've been in the dark sun forest less than 2 days. Why are we leaving already? Morana gazed into the distance, a hint of deep thought flickering in her eyes. She turned to look at Jussenberg, her expression still cold. Perhaps the Huashu Kingdom's team has encountered danger. Or perhaps they've made a new discovery. As allies, we stand together in victory and defeat. We must go to aid them. After all, this is the duty of the strong. Dasbog muttered under his breath, we haven't eliminated all enemies yet, and we haven't reached the heart of the dark sun forest to find the fire seed. Suddenly turning back, what about our assigned mission? How will we explain this to the moon people? Regardless, we must go. Jussenberg said calmly, Chaos is a man who never knows danger. When he sends a distress signal, it means the situation has reached an extremely critical moment. If we delay even a moment, they could be wiped out entirely. Purin nodded. The Fmans never abandon their comrades. With both the Pantheon's number 1 and number 2 speaking, Dasbog and Jussenberg could only swallow their objections, however strong they might be. In the end, it's still up to us to save everything. A proud smile touched Dasbog's lips. Dasbog stood clad in fiery red battle armor, shouldering a massive flaming battle axe. His footsteps thundered like rolling thunder, each stride seeming to ripple the air with its force. Jussenberg stood beside him, a crescent moon-shaped sword in hand, his expression stern. Of course it is. Who knows how many are still alive? This dark sun forest is fraught with danger. Not everyone possesses the strength to slay a mind corruptor like we do. They had every reason to be proud, for not long ago, they had jointly slain a mind corruptor with an ability index of 45,000 points. This victory had filled them with boundless confidence. The two followed behind Morana, while the warriors trailed silently behind them. Their bodies bore the scars of their ordeal in the dark sun forest, yet their eyes held not a trace of fear, only a joyful fervor. Finally, they emerged from the dark sun forest and caught sight of the Dreamer's ship waiting outside. The absence of the expected battle scene left Morana and the others puzzled. Nevertheless, they approached and were welcomed aboard when Zhang Yi lowered the gangway. A crowd had gathered there. King Arthur, Saladin, Morgan, and others were present. Morana immediately frowned, her expression displeased. Zhang Yi and his companions looked remarkably relaxed, showing no signs of having faced significant trouble. Perrin, however, approached with a smile, patting Zhang Yi's arm. "Brother, I'm just glad you're safe. I was genuinely worried you might run into trouble after we parted ways earlier." Zhang Yi shrugged. "It's all good. I've always valued my life, not easily caught in trouble." Morana suddenly spoke coldly. "What's the urgency in summoning us here? What's the matter?" Her icy blue eyes fixed on Zhang Yi, brimming with displeasure. It seemed she wouldn't let him off lightly unless he provided a satisfactory answer. Everyone knew Morana, the winter goddess, was extremely dedicated to her missions. She had even abandoned her advance into the dark sun forest to join them here. Zhang Yi froze slightly. The others exchanged glances, their eyes brimming with suppressed amusement. No wonder, the Fmans crew still didn't know their lunar expedition had ended. In just 2 days, Zhang Yi had resolved everything. With the ember rekindled, the Queen's power on the silver throne strengthened, ensuring Samuel's seal would remain secure for the foreseeable future. As for the lunar fragments, they would gradually sink back, no longer posing a threat to Earthstar. "Calling you back was for a very important matter," Zhang Yi said with a smile. "All right, we get it. You must have run into some unsolvable trouble, so you need us to step in, right?" Dazbog's voice carried a proud chuckle, brimming with that self-assured confidence. "We're allies after all. We'll lend a hand."